This homeowner association battle started when my neighbor Brenda Whitmore, a self-appointed compliance officer, began destroying my trash can with her pearl white Escalade. The first time I thought it was an accident, a crack of plastic, garbage scattered like confetti, and Brenda rolling down her window with fake concern. But by the end of that week, it had happened 4 times. My kids Emma and Tyler watched in embarrassment as their dad crawled around the driveway picking up trash. Brenda is a 52-year-old widow, retired banker, with no kids and too much time. She knows every homeowner association rule and uses her friendship with the president Gerald Thornfield to act untouchable. She moved into Pinewood Gardens 3 years ago, right after I bought my corner lot house. For me, it was supposed to be a fresh start after divorce, a safe place for the kids. Instead, I ended up with a neighbor who treated our community like her kingdom. The corner lot meant my trash can had to sit near the curb every Tuesday morning. City ordinance requires it within 3 feet of the street, which happened to be Brenda's 6:15 a.m. walking route. My elderly neighbor Mrs. Olivia confirmed what I suspected. Brenda swerved close on purpose. When I tried confronting her, she smiled sweetly and blamed me for blocking normal traffic flow. She even suggested placement timing adjustments, as if the garbage truck would magically adjust for her. Replacing can after can cost me nearly $100. Worse, the stress was hurting my kids and even showing up in custody evaluations. By then Brenda had dropped the mask. She smirked during her morning demolition runs, making eye contact as plastic shattered under her bumper. I started digging into the homeowner association bylaws and municipal ordinances. Turns out trash cans, even on public right-of-way, are still personal property. And our homeowner association had no rule against placement timing or material. That knowledge gave me leverage. But Brenda did not stop. She escalated to psychological warfare, sending me a certified letter crafted with expensive paper and ink, clearly meant to intimidate me. What began as smashed garbage bins had become a deliberate campaign to bully me. I realized Brenda thought she could keep pushing forever. But I was ready to show her that some neighbors fight back with concrete evidence. Brenda's war escalated when I received an official violation notice: improper trash receptacle placement creating traffic hazard, Section 4.7.3, remedy in 72 hours or $50 daily fines. She had pushed it through while the board was still shaken from my evidence at the last meeting. My electrician's habit of digging into codes paid off. Hours of cross-referencing revealed the truth. City law requires trash within 3 feet of the curb, and homeowner association jurisdiction ends at the property line. They had no authority. I prepared like it was an exam. Installed a Ring doorbell camera, ordered a professional survey, and got Mrs. Olivia's signed statement despite her fear of Brenda. Meanwhile, Brenda launched a smear campaign on the Nextdoor app, claiming my trash endangered children. Her 3 supporters battled the rest of the neighborhood online. She even filed 4 fake complaints with the city at 2:47 a.m., all in her handwriting style. My buddy Dave at City Hall tipped me off. At the next board meeting, a record crowd filled the community center. Brenda, in her sharp blazer, tried to look confident, but her hands trembled. When my turn came, I read the ordinance, presented my survey, and mentioned consulting attorney Amanda Sterling, who flagged selective enforcement. Brenda went pale. President Thornfield nervously stalled, saying the matter needed further review. Everyone knew they had nothing. But Brenda's mask cracked outside under the buzzing parking lot lights. She hissed, "People like you come into decent neighborhoods and think rules do not apply. This is just the beginning." Neighbors heard every word. The racial undertones were obvious, and my phone in my shirt pocket captured it all. That night, Emma asked why the mean lady hated us, and Tyler worried about moving again. I reassured them, though privately I calculated the cost: replacement cans, legal consultations, endless hours of documentation. Still, the tide was shifting. Other homeowners whispered about board overreach. Brenda's outburst exposed what this was really about: control and targeting families she disliked. The next morning, instead of smashing my can, she slowed down, studying it like planning her next attack. Sure enough, November brought her second wave. New violation notices arrived. My grass exceeded height by 1/4 inch, my mailbox color faded into unauthorized navy, and tiny tears in window screens suddenly became crimes. Each came with a $50 fine and 10-day deadlines. Brenda was not backing down. She was weaponizing every obscure bylaw in the book. One Saturday I walked the neighborhood with a measuring tape and camera, documenting 14 other properties with the same violations I had been cited for. Thornfield's grass was nearly 3 inches, Mrs. Patterson's mailbox was as faded as mine, and Maple Street screens were still torn from the hailstorm. Only my property was targeted. That same weekend I had coffee with Dale Kowalski, a concrete contractor. When I explained my trash can problem, his grin said it all. Nothing in the city code restricted container material. Plastic, metal, or concrete, if it held trash and met size requirements, it was legal. The idea stuck. I still filed my complaint with the board, including photos of other violations and statistics showing Brenda's bias. Over the past year she had issued 67 citations, 49 of them to single parents, elderly residents, or minorities. The discrimination angle practically begged for a Fair Housing Act case. For once, I felt like I had the upper hand. Friday, the kids and I mixed 60 pounds of cement in the garage, reinforced with rebar and poured inside a plastic shell. From the outside it looked like every other bin. Inside, it was an immovable fortress. Monday at 6:15, Brenda hit it at full speed. Instead of shattering plastic, her Escalade gave a sickening screech as the running board bent like foil. She sat in shock, then tried again. More damage to her SUV, none to my can. Over the next week she kept ramming it, leaving nearly $800 worth of dents and scratches while my fortress remained intact. The neighborhood noticed. For once, Brenda was not controlling the narrative, her own aggression was destroying her prized vehicle. But she could not let it go. By mid-November she had become obsessed, turning from busybody into stalker. I caught her cruising past at odd hours, Escalade dented and scarred. Mrs. Olivia whispered that she had seen Brenda in my driveway with a flashlight and scale, trying to weigh the can. The mental picture of her sneaking around in sensible shoes to measure concrete made me laugh. She even interrogated our maintenance man Jim Torres at the hardware store, asking who had been buying unusual materials. Brenda thought she was running an investigation, but really, she was unraveling in front of the entire neighborhood. Brenda's obsession took a new turn when a city inspector named Pete showed up at my door. He sighed through his clipboard, explained a complaint about unauthorized concrete structures, then gave the can a quick glance. It is a garbage container, not a foundation, no violations. He left, clearly annoyed at wasting his time. Days later came a letter from the homeowner association demanding immediate access to my property for compliance checks, obviously Brenda's work. But I knew the law. Homeowner associations cannot conduct random inspections without cause. My polite refusal, observed from the sidewalk like everyone else, hit harder than concrete. Meanwhile Brenda's Escalade was falling apart from her morning collisions. A broken running board, cracked bumper, and rattling headlight had turned her luxury SUV into proof of my can's durability. Neighbors whispered, teenagers placed bets, and even my kids joked about selling tickets to the demolition derby. Then came a breakthrough. Patricia Lopez, the lone reasonable board member, pulled me aside at the community center. In hushed tones she revealed Brenda was lobbying Gerald for sweeping enforcement powers, property inspections, contractor checks, material restrictions. But Patricia's bigger warning was financial. Brenda had been pushing shady maintenance contracts, always with detailed proposals ready. That night I followed Patricia's lead. Public records and municipal contract databases told a different story. A company called Whitmore Construction Limited Liability Company had been formed just 6 months earlier, listing Brenda as part owner and her husband Richard as president. Within weeks it began winning homeowner association contracts, landscaping, sidewalks, community center repairs, playground upkeep. Total payouts exceeded $23,000. The bidding pattern was suspiciously precise. Every time Whitmore underbid competitors by $50 to $100, just enough to guarantee the job without raising alarms. And who voted to approve each one? Brenda. 7 contracts, 7 approvals, all benefiting her family business. The conflict of interest was glaring. She was not just harassing me over trash cans, she was running a scheme, using homeowner association power to funnel contracts into her own pocket. My concrete fortress had not just resisted her SUV, it had threatened to expose the scam she had been quietly building for months. The evidence was undeniable. Brenda had funneled over $23,000 in homeowner association funds into her own family business, Whitmore Construction. Business registrations, meeting minutes, contract awards, and bank records all told the same story. She launched her harassment campaign just days after I had questioned inflated maintenance budgets. My reinforced trash can had not just blocked her morning routine, it had blocked her cover-up. The violations were staggering: conflict of interest, financial mismanagement, potential fraud. Automatic removal from the board was the least of her worries. I compiled everything, stored digital backups, and sent it all to attorney Amanda Sterling with a note: urgent review, criminal implications possible. Brenda thought she was fighting a divorced electrician over trash cans. What she really faced was exposure that could end in federal prison. By Tuesday, her Escalade showed over $1,200 in damage, while my concrete can stood untouchable. For the first time, I was not thinking about bins or bylaws, I was thinking about justice. That evening my garage became a war room: construction paper timelines, red string, stacks of evidence, and mismatched chairs framed the battle ahead. The core team assembled: Mrs. Olivia with her tea, Jim Torres still in uniform, Patricia Lopez carrying borrowed board files, and Dale Kowalski grinning with donuts. Together we mapped a multi-pronged attack. Jim would document Brenda's retaliation, Olivia would organize door-to-door outreach, Patricia would rally the board for an audit, and Dale would advise on construction details. Amanda confirmed we had grounds for harassment, fraud, and misconduct. Timing would be key. Our plan hit from 4 angles: legal pressure through lawsuits and criminal complaints, social pressure through petitions and neighbor unity, political pressure through media and municipal oversight, and financial pressure through audits and contract cancellations. Wednesday I launched the community campaign. Armed with documentation, I visited every house in Pinewood Gardens. The response was overwhelming: 89 signatures supporting property rights, 34 demanding audits, and a dozen neighbors willing to testify. Even Mrs. Rodriguez, once skeptical, signed furiously after recalling Brenda's petty fine over a trash can put out 15 minutes early. Patterns emerged. Brenda's staunchest supporters were longtime homeowners who had benefited from selective enforcement. Fence sitters were newer residents, worried about retaliation or property values. Everyone else was ready for accountability. Within days, momentum was building. What began as a feud over trash cans had transformed into a neighborhood uprising against corruption. Channel 7's investigative unit, led by reporter Sarah Kim, specialized in municipal corruption and had covered homeowner association scandals across the metro area. Our press kit was airtight, with clean timeline graphics, expert legal opinions, and a 12-minute edit of Brenda's escalating collisions. Online, momentum exploded. The Pinewood Gardens Transparency Group added 67 members in 4 days as neighbors shared accounts of selective enforcement and financial irregularities. A time-lapse of Brenda's morning routine set to circus music went suburban viral. Meanwhile, my concrete trash can kept doing double duty as evidence and entertainment. Collision attempt number 53 sheared a headlight housing that dangled like a broken tooth. Kids gathered early at bus stops to watch. Emma said classmates now called our place the indestructible trash can house, while Tyler monetized a phone compilation at 50 cents a view. The story was spreading faster than gossip at a church potluck. By Sunday night, the operation was locked: board meeting Tuesday, media interviews Wednesday, criminal complaints Thursday. 118 residents committed to attend, with 17 ready to speak. The coalition was built, the evidence bulletproof, and Brenda had no idea. Then the weekend before our board meeting ambush, she went off the rails. I woke to the hiss of spray paint and found bright orange moves scrawled across the can. 30 seconds with a pressure washer erased the paint, and my cameras captured a pearl white Escalade parked 3 houses down. Monday brought an anonymous gas line complaint. The utility inspector spent 2 hours scanning, found nothing, and hinted the caller had either vision or psychological issues. Tuesday, Jim Torres warned me Brenda had hired Riverside Security for daily surveillance. My upgraded system was already recording her drive-bys, midnight photos, and increasingly erratic patterns. Wednesday stung. Emma overheard Brenda telling another parent about dangerous influences and inappropriate role models, racial undertones obvious and threatening to my custody case. That evening I retained Beth Morrison, a retired detective, to document harassment and testify on escalation and threat assessment. Sabotage intensified. Someone poured a corrosive on the can, leaving only a stain. Anonymous city complaints and fake business reviews multiplied. Friday, Tyler found a magnetic GPS tracker under my work truck. I photographed it, removed it, and filed a police report with Officer Derek Martinez, who said we had moved into criminal territory, unauthorized surveillance, stalking, harassment. Simultaneously, Brenda filed a $3,200 road hazard claim. My ring footage showed deliberate targeting from multiple angles across weeks, and the State Farm investigator needed only minutes with the evidence to conclude it was no accident. The fraud case was collapsing around Brenda. State Farm denied her claim, referred it to the fraud unit, and the community pressure boiled over. Our Facebook group swelled to 94 members, neighbors sharing fresh stories of her harassment from rose bushes to sidewalk chalk. Even Gerald Thornfield began distancing himself. Saturday's collision attempt was number 57, leaving Brenda crawling in her business suit to collect a detached bumper while neighbors watched. By Sunday the evidence compilation was complete, notarized statements, financial fraud exposed, and a united coalition. Tuesday's board meeting would be less a debate and more a public execution. Sensing disaster, Brenda pushed Gerald into an emergency closed-door session. Through blinds I saw frantic gestures. Patricia Lopez texted updates from inside. Brenda accused me of terrorist threats and demanded powers to seize modifications. Their attorney looked miserable. Meanwhile, someone had hastily backdated disclosure forms for Whitmore Construction, but digital timestamps revealed the forgery. The cover-up was crumbling. The insurance investigation was also closing in. State investigator Maria Santos subpoenaed homeowner association records and traced payouts with ease. Richard Whitmore, Brenda's husband, finally cracked. He called me directly. She has spent $8,000 on lawyers, surveillance, and repairs. Our insurance is canceled, contracts collapsing. What would it take to make this go away? I told him it was far beyond an apology. 2 hours before the meeting, Brenda filed an emergency restraining order with fabricated voicemails, doctored photos, and fake witnesses. Judge Williams dismissed it instantly, warning her about contempt of court. At the same time investigators piled on, the district attorney reviewing harassment and stalking charges, the Internal Revenue Service combing through unreported income, and the state fraud unit building its case. By 6 p.m., the community center resembled a protest rally. Cars stretched for blocks, 118 residents packed into a room built for 40, news crews rolling live. Brenda entered in funeral black, visibly trembling, flanked by her overpriced attorney. Thornfield fidgeted like a man under a tightening noose. The intimidation failed. When Masterson droned about frivolous complaints, Mrs. Olivia rose waving signed statements. "Excuse me, but which one of us has been committing insurance fraud and embezzling money?" Applause roared through the hall. 17 neighbors were ready to speak, armed with banker boxes of evidence, collision videos, contracts, complaint receipts. Then came the moment that ended it. At 6:45, Officer Derek Martinez entered carrying a folder. "Sorry to interrupt," he said to the stunned room, "but I have a warrant to serve regarding insurance fraud and stalking charges." The room fell silent. Brenda's empire of intimidation had just collapsed. The color drained from Brenda's face faster than antifreeze from her damaged Escalade. Harold Masterson immediately began whispering urgent legal advice while Gerald Thornfield looked like he was having chest pains. Game over. Checkmate. Time for the public execution. The community center had never seen anything like it. 127 residents, literally every homeowner in Pinewood Gardens, packed into a room designed for maybe 40 people with another 15 media representatives setting up cameras like this was a presidential debate. The air conditioning could not keep up with the body heat, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps sensing blood in the water. I had positioned myself strategically in the third row, flanked by Mrs. Olivia and Jim Torres, with my concrete trash can wheeled in as Exhibit A and sitting proudly beside the podium. The symbolism was not subtle. That 60-pound monument to her stupidity had become the star witness in what was about to unfold. Brenda sat at the board table looking like she would rather be getting a root canal without anesthesia. Her usual navy blazer had been replaced with funeral black, and every few seconds she glanced toward the exit like a trapped animal calculating escape routes. Harold Masterson whispered urgent legal advice in her ear while Gerald Thornfield sweated through his shirt like a man facing his own execution. Officer Martinez's entrance with that warrant folder had changed everything. The room fell silent except for the mechanical whir of news cameras and the nervous tapping of Brenda's pen against the table, a rapid-fire staccato that sounded like Morse code for "help me." Gerald called for order with a voice that cracked like a teenager's. "We will now hear public comments regarding recent community concerns." I stood up first, carrying my presentation boards like a prosecutor approaching the jury. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the exit sign transformer. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice carrying easily through the packed space. "This is not about trash cans. This is not about homeowner association bylaws or property rights or community standards. This is about accountability, transparency, and stopping corruption before it destroys our neighborhood." I walked them through the timeline methodically, 57 documented collision attempts, each one recorded in high definition, the GPS tracker illegally placed on my vehicle, the spray paint vandalism captured on security cameras, the fake insurance claims that constituted felony fraud. But the real showstopper was the financial presentation. Using a borrowed projector, I displayed the contract analysis that showed $23,400 funneled from community dues directly into Brenda's family business account. "Every month you have been paying higher fees to fund Mrs. Whitmore's personal construction company," I announced, watching jaws drop throughout the audience. 7 contracts, 7 undisclosed conflicts of interest, 7 violations of state nonprofit law. The video compilation played next, 12 minutes of Brenda's greatest hits set to a soundtrack of crunching plastic and scraping metal. The gasps and nervous laughter from the crowd provided perfect accompaniment to the footage of her increasingly desperate collision attempts. Then came the moment I had been rehearsing for weeks. "Mrs. Whitmore," I said, turning to face her directly while the cameras rolled, "you have spent $3,400 on lawyers, destroyed your $60,000 vehicle, committed insurance fraud, and stalked my family over a $23 trash can. But the real crime is the $47,000 you have stolen from this community through your family's construction company." The room erupted. Neighbors who had been grumbling about rising homeowner association fees suddenly understood where their money had been going. Mrs. Rodriguez stood up shouting in rapid Spanish that probably was not complimentary. The teenagers from Elm Street actually started clapping like they were at a concert. Brenda's response was everything I had hoped for and more. She shot up from her chair like a jack-in-the-box, her carefully constructed composure finally cracking under the pressure. "This is harassment," she screamed, her voice reaching frequencies that probably bothered dogs 3 blocks away. "These people do not understand property values or community standards. They come into decent neighborhoods and think rules do not apply to them." The racial undertones hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Channel 7's camera captured every word, every gesture, every moment of her complete psychological breakdown. Mrs. Olivia actually gasped audibly when Brenda pointed directly at her and shouted something about certain elements ruining the community. Harold Masterson tried desperately to control his client, but Brenda was beyond legal advice. She grabbed my evidence boards, attempting to tear them apart before Jim Torres and 2 other neighbors gently restrained her. The woman was having a complete meltdown on live television while Officer Martinez calmly took notes for his incident report. "I built this community," she shrieked, mascara running down her cheeks like black tears. "I protected property values. I kept standards high. And this is how you treat someone who sacrificed everything for neighborhood integrity." Gerald Thornfield called for recess, but nobody was leaving. This was better than reality TV, more dramatic than a soap opera, and more satisfying than watching your worst enemy step on a rake. Patricia Lopez stood up amid the chaos and made the motion that everyone was waiting for. I move for the immediate suspension of Brenda Whitmore from the board, pending criminal investigation and financial audit. The vote was unanimous, 4-0, with Brenda abstaining while handcuffed to Officer Martinez's chair. Justice served concrete cold with a side of public humiliation. The aftermath unfolded like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. Within 48 hours of the board meeting meltdown, Brenda's world collapsed faster than her Escalade suspension system under repeated concrete impacts. Tuesday morning brought her formal resignation, led her 2 lines of bitter text, claiming hostile work environment and personal attacks. By Thursday, the district attorney had filed insurance fraud charges carrying up to 6 months jail time and $5,000 in fines. Her insurance license was revoked Friday afternoon, followed by the suspension of Whitmore Construction's contractor certification. The financial reckoning was swift and merciless. Our Emergency Homeowner Association audit conducted by Patterson and Associates CPAs recovered $47,000 in overcharges and questionable contracts. Every homeowner received a $370 refund check by Christmas, the sweetest holiday gift Pinewood Gardens had ever seen. Richard Whitmore called me one final time, his voice hollow with defeat. "The civil settlement check is in the mail," he said quietly, $12,500 as agreed. "Brenda wanted me to tell you she is moving to Florida to live with her sister." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered the GPS tracker, the fake insurance claims, and the months of harassment my family had endured. Some lessons come expensive, and this one cost them everything. The governance transformation was remarkable. Patricia Lopez won the special election for board president by unanimous vote, running on a platform of transparency and community engagement. The new board implemented conflict of interest disclosure requirements, monthly financial reports, and public contractor bidding processes that would make municipal governments jealous. Our first community project under the reformed leadership was the playground renovation, funded entirely by recovered embezzlement money. Watching Emma and Tyler help design the new equipment alongside neighbors who had once whispered about our disruptive family felt like emotional vindication wrapped in practical progress. The legal precedent spread beyond our neighborhood. Holloway versus Pinewood Gardens Homeowner Association was cited in 12 subsequent property rights cases across Ohio. The state legislature passed the Homeowner Association Accountability Act requiring financial disclosure and audit procedures that insurance investigators called the gold standard for municipal oversight. Channel 7's investigative series won a regional Emmy for exposing suburban corruption, and reporter Sarah Kim still calls me occasionally for expert commentary on homeowner association reform legislation. The original collision videos have been viewed over 200,000 times on YouTube, inspiring similar resistance movements in communities from Toledo to Cincinnati. My concrete trash can become a neighborhood legend. We moved it to the community center lobby as a permanent display, complete with a bronze plaque reading Property Rights Protected 2023. New homeowners get the full story during orientation meetings, and visiting contractors often ask to see the famous indestructible can that brought down a corrupt board. But the real victory was community healing. The Concrete Can Days festival we established draws families from 3 surrounding developments every September, featuring bounce houses, barbecue competitions, and educational workshops on homeowner rights. Last year's attendance topped 800 people, turning our trauma into triumph and our resistance into celebration. The scholarship fund I established with the settlement money has helped 4 students attend college so far. The Marcus Holloway Property Rights Scholarship prioritizes applicants who demonstrate creative problem solving in the face of institutional opposition, essentially rewarding future troublemakers who refuse to accept injustice quietly. Emma and Tyler learned lessons about principled resistance that no civics class could teach. Emma's college application essay about fighting corruption with concrete evidence earned her admission to 3 journalism programs. Tyler started a YouTube channel called Suburban Justice that covers homeowner association disputes across the Midwest with the enthusiasm of a teenage investigative reporter. The personal healing surprised me most. My custody evaluation improved dramatically after the community rallied around our family. The judge noted that children benefit from seeing parents stand up for principles and protect family interests through legal channels rather than violence or surrender. My electrical contracting business expanded through referrals from neighbors who had witnessed my documentation skills and strategic thinking. Apparently, methodical problem-solving translates well from homeowner association disputes to complex wiring projects. And my reputation for getting results the right way opened doors throughout the county. Sometimes David does beat Goliath, but only when David comes prepared with evidence, allies, and 60 pounds of steel-reinforced concrete. Drop a comment and share your homeowner association nightmare story. Let us build a database of corruption and help each other fight back. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories where the little guy wins through preparation, patience, and perfect timing. Justice tastes sweetest when served with community support and creative problem-solving. Thanks for hanging out with us on Homeowner Association Stories, where the Homeowner Association Karens meet their match. If this story had you cheering or cringing, go ahead and like the video, drop a comment with your reaction, and hit subscribe so you are ready for the next wild homeowner association tale.